Very nice.
Yeah.
I love the Soho Playhouse.
I've only been there once.
I saw James Acaster there. Do you know him?
Oh yeah. He's great.
I honestly, I think one of the most underrated comics working right now
in America.
In America.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's huge in England, but
Yeah,
like,
but that's a lot of folks. You could say like they just have
Yeah.
this huge. It's because if you start in America, you're like in the mecca where they will distribute what you do throughout the world. But
yes,
if you like, unless you're like Ricky Gervais, like if you start in England, it's hard
yeah,
for people to really connect to what you're doing.
yeah, totally agree. I think like just the fact that every single person in England is gonna have heard of him, but then he plays a place like the Soho Playhouse when he
Yeah.
comes to New York.
Yeah.
Like, I think that shows you.
You know Daniel Sloss? That is
Yes.
He
Yeah.
did the Soho Playhouse too.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's not a bad room. It's not a small room, but it's like it's very niche. It's very who's the guy that runs it? Isn't it Brian?
Brian Morris.
Brian Morris, super funny dude.
Oh yeah, dude, it's hilarious.
But another person who's like very niche. Like you got to be ready for some alt fucking comedy with
I get to do that.
with Brian Morris. He's so funny though.
I did the pair on Tuesday, and he went up. He just like closed it out, and it was like such a hot room. Like it was like a little too rowdy at points, and people were shouting and to be kicked out and stuff. And
Shit.
he went
Who
up.
kicks people out of the pair?
It doesn't happen all
Was
the
it
time.
like Sean? I was like, I can't picture
Never-
any of the
it's never
comedians.
if I'm on the show or if I'm producing it, I will do it. 'Cause
Oh yeah.
If I haven't
Good for
gone
you.
up yet, especially, I'm just like, fuck this.
Right.
If no one's gonna do that, or I'll tell them to stop first.
You're like,
And then
I didn't
eventually-
work out all through quarantine for nothing. Beat the
Once-
shit out of these audience members.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were saying Brian Morris.
Oh, yeah, and he closed it out, and he just like I don't know. It's really interesting to watch someone like who knows exactly what they're doing. Like it's such a niche, like strange thing that he does, but he's so comfortable with it that he didn't get like a laugh for the first minute of his set,
Yeah.
minute and a half, and then once the laughs, like people started to understand what was happening, and he killed.
Yeah. Yeah. He kind of goes to the stage with this attitude of like, you're wrong. Like I know what I'm doing. I know this is funny. This is your fault. You're not
Yeah,
laughing.
it's like this is what comedy
it's-
is on the planet that I'm from.
Yeah. That is a great way to put it.
Yeah, he's like, you know.
The Soho Playhouse planet. Yeah, I don't know how people do that, and maybe it's just like maybe I'll get better at that as I get older, because like Brian Morris is older. He's not like our age. He's not in his 20s. So maybe like I guess every big name comic hits that point eventually. Like, oh, you're not laughing while you're wrong. Not that
Yeah.
Brian Morris is like famous or whatever, but like being that secure in your bits and everything while also asking the audience for attention, just like it's so contradictory in my head.
Yeah. But I mean, part of it is like just being on stage so many times that you know like the rhythm of stand-up and how it works so intrinsically
Yeah.
that when something that works isn't working, you don't crumble. You're just like, well, I know this is funny.
Yeah. Yeah, that is, I think, exactly right. So I guess I just gotta practice more, or I'll never get there, you know. I don't know. It would be a good quitting story. It's like, oh, why'd you quit? It's like, well, you know, never believed in my jokes, you know. They'd be like, that is important.
that's rule one, dude.
That is rule one. Well, it's like, it's tough when you're starting out. Like, so you're actually really good, I feel like, at being super comfortable on stage, and you always have been. Is that what you like? Is that how you go into it? Because the first still 4.5 years I've been doing it, I'm still like, oh nope, this bit might fail, and then waiting for it to fail.
Yeah, I just don't care if it fails. I mean, I before COVID, I was way more nervous on stage, and then for whatever reason, like the first day I did stand-up again, I was like, oh, I'm fine.
Yeah,
So I think I got a taste of what it would be like if I just quit comedy,
yeah,
and I was like, oh, this sucks way more. So like even if this isn't going well, I know that I'm funny enough to like have a right to do this and have
Yeah.
a place to do it. So now I just feel very secure on stage. I feel comfortable, especially at the Pair. I feel comfortable just like trying new material, running stuff.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was just talking with another comic. I don't know if you know Corey Yoskowitz.
Oh yeah.
I'll get him on this podcast
All Days
pretty
Off.
soon. Yeah. Him and Alex Aronson, both really funny. Go look them up. But we were talking about how it's super important to have that club where you are so comfortable that you could literally do anything and you're not going to be thrown off. You know, like, you can start blaming the audience. It doesn't matter what happens. You know you're not going to get thrown out. Like, you're just comfortable. And that was like, he was talking about how he doesn't really have that. Like, he's got a couple places he goes, but he doesn't have a place where he can, like, try ridiculous new stuff and just see what happens. Where, like, Greenwich for me, like, the comics in the back were being too loud one time, so I gave an audience member $10 to walk back there and tell them to shut the fuck up. And they did it, and it was awesome. And Jesse was back there. It was Jesse, Keanu, and like a couple other people who've been on this podcast. They were so fucking mad at me for like, I still don't understand why they got so mad at me, because in my head, that's hilarious. Like an audience member going back there.
They shouldn't be talking.
They shouldn't, yeah. Well, you know, I can't tell them not to talk, but I can tell them to talk quieter. But like that sort of comfortability, and that's what you've got at the Pair too, right?
Oh yeah, and I'll feel it like in other places too, just because I know so many people in the scene now. It's pretty rare that I'll do a show where I show up and I have like no idea who anyone
Very
is.
true.
So I don't, if someone books me on a show, I'm not going to go and just run new material and like work on stuff.
Yep.
I'll respect what they're doing and I'll do stuff I know works, but it's still like I feel pretty secure in this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's I think the way to go. I think a lot of people just kind of float around and they don't really have a quote unquote like home or whatever, like a home base, which good to have. That's what we were talking about before, is like producing shows and having the ability to run your sort of thing, and it's more work, but you're in full control, you're a little more comfortable.
Oh yeah, and a lot of people, I mean, that's like such an important thing to have, especially when you're like developing a voice and just like figuring out who you are on stage. It's important to have a place that just lets you experiment.
Yeah.
And some people think like they'll have that place just by like their merit or how funny they are, which is like almost never the case.
Almost never the
You can
case.
be like hilarious, yeah. But if you're like 2 years in or whatever,
Sorry, you Tom Segura, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, for real. You need to like produce shows, you need a bar, you need to do something for them. They're like, okay, you're worth more than just
right.
another fucking comedian, which everyone is in Manhattan.
Especially if you're a straight white dude.
Oh,
Like, if you're a straight white dude not helping produce a show or produce a show, you're not making it. I'm sorry, you're just not.
Oh yeah.
It's so. How did you? Because I would say you have a very unique voice, like a very unique identity on stage. How did you come up with that? Because you're like, I guess for the audience, let me take a stab at describing you on stage, and then you can tell me where I'm off. But like, you are so slow and deliberate with your jokes that it like, you could make 4 lines go for like a minute and a half, and then that 4th line is so funny. And I just like, I watch you on stage and I'm like, that is terrifying. Like, I am terrified that 4th line is not going to be funny, and I would have just wasted a minute and a half of everyone's time. But you're just like chilling up there, and I have no idea how you do it. It's so the opposite of my style, which is like kind of fast.
Yeah. I mean, one reason for that is like, I think if you can like create that tension and sit in it, then you have more control over the audience than someone who's shouting over them. Because I watch a lot of like open micers or like amateur comics at my level. That's how they would try to like take control of the audience, is be louder than them.
Yep.
Or shout, so like I'm the loudest thing in the room, so you have to watch me.
Yeah.
But if you like stand on stage and you face an audience and you like don't say anything and you're comfortable like sitting in silence, they'll just get so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so you have so much power in just like holding on to that. Why would you just like give it away by trembling and shouting and just making faces and shit? Like I pause a lot, and I just have a lot of like very pregnant pauses, lots of silence, and then I'm very deliberate with my words, just so that like people actually listen.
Yeah.
Like I was saying earlier, that midnight show I did on Tuesday that Brian was on. Before I went on stage, like the host was like, "Yeah, dude, there's like really rowdy people in the back. They're like shouting at all the comics." And I was like, "Okay." And I just did what I do. I got on stage, and I was just like, I didn't say anything for like 5-10 seconds, and then I was like, "All right, I'm gonna start with like a story."
Yeah.
And everyone stopped talking. Like the room just stopped talking. So it was like, all right, if you just don't play into it. If I got on stage and I was like, I heard you guys are loud, shut the fuck up. Like,
yeah.
you're throwing gas on the fire, you know?
That's true. Some people can really thrive in those types of shows.
100%.
Like Chris Ryder, I feel like the rowdier the room, the better his set's going to be, because he's yelling over them no matter what.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not to look down on people that do that.
No, I know you're not.
I don't have access to that sort of energy.
Right.
My energy is sort of just, I kind of gather.
I would be terrified
attention.
if you started yelling at me.
Yeah,
it's
not pleasant.
I've never heard you yell before,
It's
and
not
I'm
funny.
like, that is, man,
Yeah.
I would start sweating. That would not be good.
Oh, yeah. I guess the difference between me and Ryder is that like I gather that attention
Yeah.
and that energy, and Ryder just, it's like an explosion. Like he
Yeah.
just releases it and
Like a
distributes
Super
it
Saiyan.
through the room. Yeah, but he can also breathe that energy into the room.
Yes, you can.
I can't really do that way.
Okay. So what do you do when like a room is dead? Like a rowdy room, that's your move. Slow it down. People will come to you.
I do the same thing.
And if it's dead, the same thing is like that will also pick them up. Like, okay, so you're
Usually it's what if a room is
Okay.
like dead and someone is shouting at them and that's not what they like. Like they don't want that high energy stuff, then I'll go up there and I'll talk to them, and it'll like bring them out of their shell. I'm just
Yeah.
like almost like a librarian. It's like, how are you guys now? Are we okay? And they'll go, oh yeah, we're comfortable now.
yeah. Yeah. Chris Ryder scared me, but you're
Yeah.
very comfortable.
Yeah, the other thing is like if the audience gets the sense that you just don't give a shit about
Yeah.
what they're doing, then they'll start paying attention.
That's true.
That's like the Jim Carrey quote, where he's like when he's trying to figure out like what to do on stage and what the audiences want. And then one day he was like, oh, they want to be free from concern. They don't want to care
Yeah.
about you. So if you go up there and you're like nervous, obviously they pick up on it a second, and then they're like uncomfortable and upset that you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But if you just go up there and own the space and you don't give a fuck what they're doing, then they're like actually interested in what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't show them you care about what they're doing.
Yeah. Just, you can't care.
Right. Yeah. But you kind of have to. That's kind of the contradiction that was going on, because like at the end of the set you get off and then you figure out what worked and what didn't work. So at some level you do care.
Definitely, but you can't
Because like those.
you can't go up there and like be begging them for their attention. You can't be
yes.
like, I'm doing this
Yes.
thing because I feel like it's what you would want to hear.
Yes.
Yada yada. You got to do your own thing. And I mean, it probably takes years for this to work, but you got to figure out how to do your thing, speak in your voice, be completely true to yourself, and also like meet or like people in the middle and be like, how is this communicating to others?
Yep.
But you can't reach too far over the line and be like, I'm just doing shit just to please you guys, because that's unmemorable.
Yep. No, you're 100% right. One of my big issues is like, if I don't get a pop, I will start speaking faster and faster, and I will sound more eager, and it's just like it spirals downward, and then I end up having a bad set. So
Oh yeah.
it's no, you're 100% right, and that's, you know, I'm not saying that happens to me every single set, but it's like just enough that I'm like, I always gotta watch out for that. I hate that. Totally different topic. what happened the last 2 days that you didn't sleep at all? You messaged me yesterday and were like, hey, I think we should do this some other time. I haven't slept in 2 days. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? I know you're not doing like 9 shows a night.
I just, it's not even like I was like out partying or anything. I don't do that. I had a good set on the midnight show on Tuesday, and I went home and I was writing jokes, and I recorded myself, so I was watching that tape, and I was like taking notes about what I was doing that I didn't like and whatever. And then when I stopped doing that, it was like 3:30 in the morning, and then I just didn't fall asleep. I didn't get tired until like 10 a.m. I just was awake until 10 a.m. and then I was like, I can't fucking go to sleep right now.
Jesus.
I gotta like try to stay awake and reset the schedule. And then I went and got some like fresh bagels. I was like, this will make me excited and want to stay awake all day.
Yeah.
I went and got these bagels. I brought them home, put them on the counter, sat down, and I just fell asleep. And I fell asleep for like an hour and woke up and like tried to work out, but I was so tired, and
Yeah.
it was like that all day. Just kept like, every time I sat down, I would just pass out.
Jesus.
It was terrible. And then when I messaged you, I was like, I'm not gonna be able to form sentences.
I'm not gonna lie, I almost was like, no, this could be great. Please. It could be 30 minutes, but I wanna try this out. I wanna see what loopy Jake is like, because you're so even keeled all the time. I was like,
I bet you
maybe
wouldn't-
sleep deprived, I could get him to really be loud.
You wouldn't
or
have
something.
noticed the difference, but I wouldn't have even known where I was. I would be like lighting cigarettes inside of the apartment. You're like, dude, no.
Yeah, let me just go open a window, I guess. Then get back to the Bears. Like, Jake is really bold. He showed up, started lighting cigarettes, pissing on the floor. It was a real podcast. We got it on video, so we're good. No, part of the reason that I was interested is because the topic you wanted to talk about was identity, and I was like, how would your take on identity change if you were sleep deprived versus not sleep deprived?
So much, dude.
So give me your initial thoughts on like why the topic of identity, and then like I don't know if you would thought about it at all while you were sleep deprived, but like what are those differences in your head?
A lot. Because I mean, when you fall asleep like that for like hours at a time, and you wake up and keep falling back asleep, you never really get deep REM sleep.
Right.
So you have just insane dreams. And so I'd fall asleep for like 45 minutes, and I'd have a dream about like I'm backstage at MSG, and it's like they're filming a special.
Damn.
And like my relatives are coming into my room and being like telling me all this shit before
You
I go
need
on
more
stage.
realistic dreams, Jake.
And then, but then I'll wake up, and then the next one was like, I am at Mike's,
Mhm.
and I'm bombing at Mike's, and
See,
my
there you
friends
go.
are like uncomfortable telling me that I should quit comedy.
Oh no, that is honestly my worst fear.
It's
I
terrible.
regularly tell that to Chris. I'm like, when
Yeah.
I become that guy pointing to whoever's on stage,
Yeah.
please tell me to quit. Like,
Oh, yeah.
tell me to start a family and move back to Michigan. I can't be that guy.
It's terrible. But those dreams are like because I'm awake. I'm essentially awake.
Right.
I'm just so tired that it feels like I'm
You're
sleeping
almost
and I'm just-
daydreaming.
Yeah, it's just nonsense. Like my brain is rearranging all my anxieties, and so it's stuff like I get when I'm tired. I'm very negative.
Okay, yeah.
So
I get that.
So I mean, those dreams are like really like framing just how I feel about myself. And so that being at MSG is like a massive ego spike for no reason.
Yeah.
Because I had a good set and I was like watching the tape and I'm asleep and I'm like, what if I was the most famous guy ever?
Netflix is gonna love this bit.
And then I wake up and I'm like, you're an egotistical maniac.
Oh, okay.
Thinking about this, and then I fall asleep, and then the next dream after that is like you're like the bottom of the barrel piece of shit.
Yeah.
And so I mean, and it's like the reason that topic came to my mind was like, in stand-up, if you want to stand out, you have to have like a voice.
Yep.
You have to have a pretty interesting identity on stage.
Unique at the very least.
Oh yeah, and so that's something I worry about all the time. It's like when I get laughs on stage, am I saying anything about myself? that's like worth selling, because you're the product when you're a comedian. You have to sell yourself to people, and if you're just telling jokes, like that's replaceable. You know?
Yeah. I mean, there are really good joke tellers. You could say that about, Anthony Jeselnik, Mark Norman. Jeselnik is very unique.
They have personalities, though.
It's true.
Mark Norman's a great joke writer, of course. Jeselnik's a great joke writer, but like Mark Norman, part of it is his awkward presence on stage.
Yes.
And a lot of his fan base are people that listen to him on podcasts where he just tells stories, which I think are funnier than his stand-up, honestly. Like,
yeah,
his stories are so funny and interesting, and he has such a crazy past, and that created just like this kind of, like a lounge act comedian almost.
Yeah.
That like is silly when you just look at them against each other and contrast them. But those guys, even though they're joke writers, you can say the same thing about Mitch Hedberg. Like, he's not saying anything about himself, but it has such a unique presence on stage.
Yeah, you feel like you know him through. Yeah, you're right. So how do you?
I could tell Mark Norman jokes. Like, I could write those kind of jokes, but
right.
It wouldn't be funny.
Every new comedian goes through different phases of other comedians, and in New York, almost every open micer starts doing Mark Norman at some point. Like,
he's the number one now.
Yeah. And even his attitude of like, I have to do 6 mics a night. I have to hit the grind. If I'm not doing it every day, I'm a failure. Like that sort of attitude, which I guess part Joe Rogan, part Mark Norman, but yeah, it's pretty unrealistic. So honestly, I like it because it kind of keeps the younger comedians out. But I'm all for new comedians coming in if they're good, but if they're just gonna copy other people, which you do for a time, but that's part of figuring it out. Figuring out your voice is like, oh shit, I can write a Mark Norman joke, but I can't tell one.
Absolutely, yeah. But that's that used to really bother me when I was hitting mics every day, and I'd be like, this guy's clearly just doing Anthony Jeselnik, or you're doing Norm Macdonald, something like that.
Yeah.
But after a while, you're like, well, they're never gonna have a career.
No.
Because you won't have a career in comedy, you won't have a fan base unless you're saying something brand new.
Yeah, right.
Or it's saying it in a brand new way.
That's not going to work for them.
Yeah, so they can do that all they want. You can pay your $5 and go up and tell Norm Macdonald jokes, Norm Macdonald style jokes. But unless you're like actively trying to say something original, it's just not going to work out for you.
Yeah, and that's where the self-awareness comes in. Because if you were to ask any of those people, like, do you realize you're doing Norm Macdonald jokes? They'd go, nope, I had no idea. Like, it's all retrospective that you realize, like, oh shit, I was doing Mark Norman jokes before, and that doesn't work for me. But, so how do you go about, like, in a normal, non-sleep deprived, I guess actually let's get back to square one. Like, why are you so fascinated with the idea of identity, and in what context? Does that make sense? So like, in the context of stand-up, in the context of like being a good kid, in the context of being a functioning member of society, like how do you go about thinking about these things, and where is that super interesting to you?
I guess it's interesting in pretty much any way, all across the board. Mostly, when I think about it in terms of stand-up, because I'm just, constantly trying to think about how I could make this a career.
Right.
And that's the most important thing to me. I'm like, if I have like a unique voice, I think that would be like my greatest selling point. So if I could develop that, that's like really important to me. Something I think about a lot. And then, other than that, I guess like I'm 22, so I worry about it all the time. I'm like, do I know who I am? In a really lame way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I also feel like that's just something you worry about a lot when you're young, and then you don't like actually figure it out. You just get to an age where you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
you're just comfortable
Yeah.
with.
No, that's true.
You know.
You're yeah.
So I get that. Like a lot of times, I'll just walk around with that feeling. I'm like, one day I'll just be secure in the not knowing. So I don't really care that much. But other times I just worry. I'm like, what? You know, it feels lame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's lame. I think it's a little like, I don't know if a lot of 22-year-olds are thinking about it that way, for sure.
I guess so.
The other part that stuck out to me is that most early comedians think to themselves, oh, I have to write the best bits. I have to write bits that are true to me. Where you're saying, I need to find a voice that's true to me. Most of the time and this was me and with other comics, young comics that I know, they're not even worried about their voice until, year 5, 6, 7. They're like, well, that'll come naturally to me. I'll figure it out. If I keep writing, if I write the best bit, then that'll be my voice, essentially. But you're kind of thinking about it backwards. And I'm not saying backwards as in you're wrong. I mean just like backwards from the norm. And maybe that's the way to do it. Maybe it doesn't matter if your jokes are good if you have a super unique voice.
Yeah. I mean, I remember like, I wrote an essay when I was in like 6th or 7th grade or something for a teacher, and I just like botched, just, like grammatically, just fucking a nightmare. It was terrible.
I mean,
but
you were like 11.
But I got an A on it.
Very nice.
Even though it was like marked up, just like red pen everywhere.
Yeah.
And she was like, I gave you an A because you have like a very clear voice.
Huh.
Like what the ideas that you're trying to explain are like, they're coming through very clearly, even though this is like a disaster.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like you know how to organize these thoughts and communicate them, which is like the most important part of writing. And so I just remember that all the time. Like that's, if you can, it doesn't really matter how you get the idea across, even if you like break the rules of writing. If you're communicating that idea, that's like the most important thing that you can do.
Yeah.
Like if you can make someone laugh without just doing set up, punch, you're not doing it wrong.
Yeah. I like how you had the opposite teacher experience of what you normally hear about. You're like, the person gets famous and then like, fuck, all my teachers told me I'd never be nothing. And you're like, I don't know, my English teacher kind of framed everything I think now.
Oh yeah.
Good for you, not blaming the teacher.
Yeah, but I mean, after that, in high school, my teachers would be like, this is dog shit, I said. I'm like, yeah, but the ideas are clear, right?
Yeah.
No.
Well, so how did you think about identity back in high school, let's say? Like, did you have good grades? How did you figure out what you...
I never...
So did you always want to be a comic? Like, how...
Yeah, dude, since I was like 8 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
That is so the opposite of me. I just flipped all over the place.
It's the craziest thing to me is after I started doing comedy, I've met so many people who were like, I knew I wanted to do comedy, like, the first mic I did. It's like, what do you do?
How'd you get to that mic?
Why did you even go to a fucking open mic?
Yeah, my fantasy football team convinced me I should do it. It's like, what?
Yeah, you fucking mind, dude?
Idiots?
Yeah, like, I've like...
I almost said a really bad word there.
It's crazy to me how, like, a lot of, like, really talented people, too.
Yeah.
I really admire. They're like, yeah, I never once thought about doing it. And then I tried it, and I was like, oh, I'm great at it.
Does that make you mad? Like...
No, it doesn't make
the natural... Okay.
When I used to just be hitting mics all the time, I had a very competitive mindset.
Yeah.
And if someone got a laugh, I'd be like, I have to get a bigger laugh than that. And so when people would tell me that story of like, yeah, I just tried it one day, and now it's like what I want to do, I would have this thought where I'm like, yeah, but I deserve to do it. Which is so shitty and stupid and wrong. It doesn't matter how you get into it. But that sucks, like when you're only hitting open mics, just that, like having that mindset of like, because you're so far down, below the last rung of the ladder of show business, like it just feels so shitty.
Show business wants you there so little, you have to pay to be there.
Yeah.
Like that's essentially open mics.
Open mics,
New York.
It's just like a bunch of rats fighting over food.
It really
and then
is.
like the production assistants are like betting on it.
Yes, exactly.
Which rat is going to?
There are no PAs at open mics. That's not worth their time.
Oh no, I just mean they're higher up.
Yes, yeah.
on the totem pole.
That's true. I think I got lucky in terms of, because I am a very competitive person. With my first show ever, I had to follow Todd Barry. Like I started with a class, and just because I moved to New York, I was like, I don't fucking know where to start, so I'm just going to start with this class, and at the very least, someone will point me in the right direction. And the first show I ever did, it was just total like end of class bringer show. Like everyone's having a good time. You know, the audience is alive because they know the people, and it's like classic bringer show. Like this show is amazing, but you're not actually really getting anything from it. Todd Barry pops in. He goes right before me. I have to follow him, and I had such a good set. Like I'd been running that at open mics all like for the last 6 weeks or whatever. I had such a good set, and I realized I was like, oh, the only reason I had that good of a set is because they were so excited for Todd Barry before that, and it kind of hit me. I was like, oh, if everyone who goes before me has a really good set, then I will also have a really good set. And so even though I am super competitive, I kind of like took this like rising tide boats idea and was just kind of like, I guess in the frame of identity, I was like, I want to be the person that's like bringing everyone else up to get an overall better show.
For sure. I mean, I don't feel that way anymore. Like when I'm on a lineup, I just
definitely not.
I like being on a lineup with other comics. I like hanging out with comics more than anyone else in the world. I'm just like excited to be with these people. When it was just like at mics, that's how I'm feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that was during the pandemic. Like that was the thing I missed the most.
Yeah.
Like, people were like, oh, do you miss stand-up? I was like, yeah, you know, the shows are fun. Like, I miss having something to work on. But, like, the thing that I miss is sitting at the Pear and just having 10 to 20 people I know walk by and having all these mini conversations with them.
Oh, yeah, it's the best.
It's
the best shit in the world. That's another thing about, like, when you have an idea of who you are, like, the first time I heard, like, George Carlin, I was, like, 8 years old, and I was like, that's what I'm going to do.
Really?
Oh yeah.
8 years old.
See, immediately I was like, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna be good at it, and I'm sure that I'm gonna like that's like a community I'm gonna be a part of and be like welcomed into. And I was wrong about everything else, but I thought like I'm gonna be good at this. I'm not. I wasn't. But then when I started doing comedy, it was immediately like I actually like all these people because we want the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We just want to be funny, and then this is something that like. People think it's like it's not a friendly environment, but it is. It is easy to make friends in comedy.
It is. There are sort of like guidelines to how to act in like a comedy club, but that's exactly what I was going to say. There's guidelines of how to act in corporate America. There's guidelines of how to act like you know if you're with a bunch of farmers. So like when people come in and they kind of break those unwritten rules, they're the ones who leave and go, it's a bunch of fucking assholes. Because we are a little bit insular. But it's because also, random
a lot of people don't understand the just like the way that communication works in like the comedy hang.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you don't like having your balls busted,
it's
fucking it sucks.
You're done.
It's horrible. I understand why people feel like that.
Which is why, like, almost all of us were bullied growing up. Because we're just like, okay, it's more of the same. I don't know. You can't say anything that hasn't been said about me before. So good luck.
Well, what I was saying before, I mean, like, knowing that when I was 8, like, I'm going to be part of that world, and then becoming part of it and being right.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's very fulfilling.
Oh, we're gonna kick you out soon. Stay on your toes there, Jake. You're getting a little comfortable. No, you're good.
Even if everyone in comedy hated me tomorrow, but I still had spots, I would not stop doing it.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Also, don't try that for anyone thinking about thinking the dude who everyone hates doesn't get spots very often. No, that's
bizarre hypothetical.
Yeah.
Where comedy isn't just about who you know.
Yes. Yeah. I mean. That's kind of the approach that I took to it, is like, along with the rising tide thing, I was like, I'm just gonna be nice to everybody. Like, I knew as soon as I started being a dick, like, my jokes were not frankly funny enough that people were going to book me anyway. And I was like, I can't be that guy. Like, I can't be the asshole genius. Like, I will never be that guy. I won't be that guy on stage. I won't be that guy off stage. It will not, like, I will die sad if I try that. And now people think I'm like super fucking nice. Like do you know Caitlin Reese?
Yeah.
She was on this, and I was like talking about there's like maybe 10 people that don't really like me very much, and I don't like them either, so it's fine. But I was like, yeah, this person doesn't like me, and she just goes, wait, how could that person not like you? You're like a golden retriever with a business plan. I was like, yeah, I'll take that, you know? And I'm on a mission. At least I have a goal. Like, I'm not just running around all willy-nilly being nice to people. I got, I'm aiming for something, but like, I guess that's my identity in college, or in comedy, not college. I'm more of a dick in college. But
yeah.
But to your point, that just kind of happened. I didn't think like, oh, I want to be this. It's just like the identity was kind of formed for me. Where it seems like what you're saying is like, no, I chose this. Like 8 years old, I saw that and I was like, I am doing that. That is going to be who I am.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think I like chose it. It was just like, oh, that makes sense. It wasn't like I had a bunch of options and I was like, I think this one's the best. It just, when I was I listened to his last album, George Carlin's last album, after he died, and a lot of people hate that album, which like, after I've listened to it again in recent years, I've been like, it's not his best, definitely. But when I heard it, I thought it was hilarious. And just the way he, all of his observations, the way he framed them and presented them, I was like, it sounds like something I could do. And it sounds like something that's not really rewarded anywhere else.
Yeah.
So that it makes sense for me, like, to just pursue that. That's a nice, like, part of like becoming who you are, and figuring out who you are is like hearing yourself or seeing yourself in something else.
Yeah.
So like when you're young and like if you want to be a musician and you like listen to whoever it is that you really admire, like you will hear something in it that resonates with you, and you're like, I think that's going to end up being who I am, part of who I am.
Yeah. And then you look back on it 10 years later and go, what the fuck was I thinking? Like my long hair Slipknot face. But
sure, really?
Yeah, I'll show you the photo afterwards. It's pretty, it's
well, yeah, you got to try out different things.
Right. Oh, and I 100% wanted to be in a band. And honestly, like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but if someone was like, you could play MSG as a comic or you could play MSG as the lead singer of a band, I'd 100% taking the band. I just
okay. I tell the rest of the community.
Well, neither are gonna happen.
Corey's
so
a traitor.
Yeah, right. No, it's just like the adrenaline that comes with music is like, it's just. Were you ever a musician? Did you ever play?
I play the guitar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's not. I don't know. I feel I don't have that. I feel like when I'm telling jokes, I feel like that's the most sincere I can be.
Yes.
Telling jokes about myself. When I see a guy like playing the guitar and singing, I'm like, you fucking douchebag. You're full of shit, dude. You're expressing yourself right now. You're fucking horny. Go fuck yourself.
Hey, you gotta respect the musicians that are like telling you that they're horny, just straight up.
Yeah,
like, that's all of Motley Crue. It's just like, I'm horny and you're here, so here we go.
Yeah, I do respect like hair bands like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's no like artifice.
Yeah.
To the like we're just doing this to get pussy. Like,
yeah.
Of course, I get it, dude. But don't be like hosier, being like, I'm doing this because animals are being eaten. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's like it's interesting. We don't have to stay on music for too long, but that is really, I think, the reason that most bands, like their first album is the people that are real fans of that band. It's almost always their favorite album, because the first album, the singer, the music, all of it, they're just trying to figure it out. They don't really have like any sort of an outside like pop influence. It's just like, it's raw. And that's who they are. And then you get into those later albums, like I used to listen to a lot of Disturbed, which is like heavy metal, like the first album was just a bunch of weird noises put together with like a bunch of heavy guitar. And then like by the fourth album, he's got a song about the Holocaust. And I'm like, what? Where did this fucking come from? And then like as I got older, I was like, oh, you ran out of ideas. He was like, oh, I'm going to sing about the Holocaust because that's important. And I'm like, yeah, it is important, but like maybe not for this album. Maybe leave that to like scholars and like news people. I don't know. I guess we should all be talking about the Holocaust. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, I think every artist has got to figure out, you know, what is their identity in their art and what's their identity outside of their art. Comedians, it's kind of meshed, I feel.
Yeah, and also a lot of what appeals to me about comedy is like this is I think the most vulnerable you can be. Is you're sitting in front of, like, it's even if you're not even talking about yourself, it's uncomfortable because you're fucking talking to an audience, trying to get like some kind of reaction out of them. But you have the potential to be incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like explicitly, not singing a song where there's like layered language about like you're telling people like this is something that happened to me that is weird to say.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, and I don't think you're wrong, and I may have told this story on this podcast before, but the worst set I ever had was at Greenwich. It's like the place I'm most comfortable. It was a hot show, just unbelievable. Like nobody saw it coming. As the people were having a great time, I went up right in the middle because it was my show, and I was like, I'm going up in the best spot, and I think it was like 4 or 5 people before me just crushed. I go up there and I bomb. Like, not a single laugh, just a complete 180 from what they were doing before. I get off stage, the next 3 comics fucking kill. And I'm sitting in the back and I was like, they hated me. There is no other way around this besides they saw me and they went, nuh-uh. And that's just it. And that was like, wow, that might have been the scariest, most hurtful thing that's ever happened to me in my life. But it also, like, it showed me so much about, like, I can't get cocky. Cocky doesn't work for me. I can't be over eager. Eager doesn't work for me. It's like, I learned more from that bomb than I think like anything else in that entire year. It was like year number 2, so I was just starting to feel like I kind of knew what I was doing.
Oh, yeah.
And it showed me a lot of what I am not able to do, and it has helped me so much from then on, really.
Yeah, definitely. I've had bombs like horrible bombs like that too, but it's like. And of course you learn a lot from them, but I think it's just funny that's how that happened.
Yeah.
When you follow 3 people that obliterate the room,
yeah,
and then you go up and the first thing you say, it's just like, fuck you.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, it's in hindsight, when I think about all of those bombs, I'm like, if I was a fly on the wall in that room, it's just a funny situation that's happening. It's really uncomfortable. In the moment, it's terrible.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just objectively hilarious.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's almost cartoonish how quickly the faucet turned off. Just, it's just like something out of like when SpongeBob is getting on stage and they love him, and then Squidward, they just start booing him. It was honestly like that, and so it's like I don't lay in bed thinking about that all night. But it's like, you know, every time I kind of have a set that didn't go as well as I thought it would, I'm like, God damn it, here we are again. How many times do I got to learn this lesson for myself? Oh, man.
Yeah, that's another thing. If you get on stage, like, if everyone's doing well and it pumps you up and you get on stage with this energy of like, this is going to go well.
Yeah.
That's part of why they're like, go fuck yourself.
That was the time I stopped. I had to stop watching the comics before me. I'll watch the people after me, but I can't watch the ones before. And I even hate it when comics come back and they're like, they're great. They're so much fun. You're gonna kill. You're gonna kill. I know them. You're gonna kill. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, you don't know that. I'm gonna psych myself out.
Yeah. That's Usama Siddiqui told me once. He's like, you always just want to like bring them to the middle. It's like if the room is bad, you want to make them laugh enough. But if everyone is like murdering in like in an insane way, you want to bring them down. You want them to like just listen to you.
Okay.
So he's like, what essentially what I took from that. This is a while ago he told me this.
Sure.
What I took from that is like, if you are killing that hard, it's not about you.
Yes.
So if you're actually working on something and you want the room to listen to you and actually be invested in what you're doing, you have to bring them to a place where they're doing that. Not where they're just like screaming because they understand the rhythm of a joke.
Yes.
And you just hit a punchline. It's like that's the work of it. You're having them follow you through the performance and not just like have a party essentially.
Yes.
And then if it's like a terrible room, you want to have the skill set to bring them up.
Yes. Now that you explain it, I 100% agree, and it's something at Greenwich that actually very recently happened to me. Because like I will work the door for my own show. Like I'll take tickets, I'll get them inside, all that other stuff. And so when I get on stage, like I have had it where people are looking at me and I can tell like the gears are going in their head. Where have I seen this guy before? So, and I hate that. Like I hate looking at the audience and them thinking, like seeing that they are confused because they're not paying attention when they're confused.
Yeah.
And so I will get on stage every once in a while and say, yes, I am the guy from the door. Don't think about it. And that normally gets a laugh. Last week, like they exploded. Like I had no idea why. And I literally looked at them and I was like, hey, that was not that funny. Shut the fuck up. And it like, that got a laugh, but they also like kind of calmed down. And I think that's what you're trying to say, right? Like, that's what Usama's trying to talk about, because if they were going to laugh that hard at I'm the guy from the door, then they weren't going to listen to me.
Yeah, no, they're like just excited that you're able to talk into the microphone.
Yeah.
You know.
Honestly, there are some comics who can't. So, you know.
That's the thing. I mean, Dean David said that to me once. He was like, you should be comfortable on stage because most audiences are just amazed that you're talking.
That's true. Actually, this happened last night. There was a comic that I saw get on stage, and at the end of his, like, he did not have a good set, but at the end of his set, he brought an audience member on stage to read something off a piece of paper that he had written as, like, part of a bit. But I was like, oh, that is an amazing way to get off stage with people in a good mood, because at the end of that bit, they're going to clap for her. They're not laughing for him, but they are going to have enjoyed what just happened.
Yeah. And
I was like, that's smart. I hate that you did it, but it's also, that's a cheap move, but I see what you did, and I understand where it's coming from. So where do you see your identity going? Like, we talked a lot about, like, how you found it, what you're doing right now, but, like, how do you expect to grow going forward? Because I think everybody's trying to figure that out to some extent. Like, what am I going to end up being?
Yeah, I think like off stage in regular life, I try to just be comfortable with who I am. You know, I don't worry too much about, like, I see a lot of folks, especially in the village. You see like NYU students who are, have 1,000 piercings and tattoos on their face and shit, and I'm like, you haven't figured it out. Like, you think you did because you put all this dumb shit on your face.
Yep.
But you look like a moron.
That's society telling them that, man.
And maybe if you just gave your dad a call, you would feel like an idiot for putting all this stuff on.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just like, but I feel for those people. I get really upset because I'm like, get what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like you're just trying the wrong thing. Like digging I mean, maybe it's, tattoos are what you like, I don't know.
Sure.
But I can see a lot of folks are really trying to create an identity out of these weird kind of like, what's the word? Superficial things.
Sure.
Or just like gather things around them. It's like you're at the beach and you're just like collecting sand around you. And you're like, I'm a new guy now. Are you not? So I feel like I just want to don't worry too much about like my appearance or like how other people are looking at me, what they see. I put zero thought into what I wear every day, And so I just try to like be comfortable in my head.
That's because you're in good shape.
Yeah, well,
if you were fat, you'd
thing.
have to think about it more.
Most of the exercise I do is just to manage anxiety.
Right.
Yeah. So that like just that feels good. Just to have done a workout and I'm not like there's so much energy inside of me that it's like it doesn't have anywhere to go and it's ruining my day and I can't think straight. It's I just try to like focus on what I'm thinking, and that should be enough to like that should be enough of a business card for me out in the world.
So you're not really thinking about it? I just find it weird that at like 8 years old you're like, that's what I'm gonna do, and then from then you've been like, yeah, I'm not worried about it. I figured it out already. Like,
I'm not worried about stand-up. I know.
Okay.
I know I'm good at it, and I'm gonna get better.
Yeah.
And I work pretty hard. With
yeah. No, you definitely do.
I write a lot, so I don't worry about that. It's when you have that. Like I knew I wanted to do it when I was pretty young, and then to start doing it and be good fairly quickly, like just have an idea of what I'm doing, I'm able to do it. It's very fulfilling in a way that's like it gives me confidence for the next decisions that I'll make in my life. So it makes me feel very secure that having that background.
Damn. Well, I know fucking 50-year-olds that don't have that nailed down. So
yeah,
I mean,
lucky.
good for you that you figured that out for yourself. I wouldn't even say that I figured that out for myself, but that's maybe I need to work out more and just tame the anxiety, live in the moment. But this was good. I think this was a good conversation. I enjoyed talking about this kind of stuff because like it's always interesting to me how everyone figured it out or is figuring it out. And I think like you could have a different conversation with every single type of person, but yours is especially fascinating. So thank you for coming by and talking about it. Where can people consistently see you? I know you've got the weekly show and you might have another thing coming up too.
Yeah, so I got shows in the works, but right now we're doing a live podcast at the Pear, Grizzly Pear, 6 p.m. every Sunday.
What's the name?
I named it yesterday. It's called Peanut Butter Trap.
Peanut Butter Trap.
Yeah.
I love it.
And
that's awesome. With former guest Eli Haba.
Yeah, with co-host Eli Haba. It's live, so if you want to come, tickets are on Eventbrite, or you can buy them at the door. And you can be part of the recording, which is a lot of fun, or you can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Very nice. Yeah, and everyone here should definitely go listen to Eli's episode on getting arrested. It's still one of my favorite episodes of this podcast ever.
Oh.
That kid's got some stories.
Oh, hell yeah.
What's your Instagram, TikTok, Twitter? What do you got?
No TikTok. Instagram, Jake Timothy.
Okay. And follow me at Corey T Comedy. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter are my main three. Every Monday, 7:30. And now I'm on a bunch of shows every week at Three Monkeys. Look up Sheba Mason Comedy, Three Monkeys. You'll be able to get tickets. There are some free ones available, so see if you can find those before you pay. But yeah, Jake, thank you for coming.
Thanks,
it was a lot of fun.
I'm still pretty tired, so
yeah,
if some of
no,
that
you're good.
Didn't make sense.
I think it all made sense. But if it didn't, we'll get you to come back and clarify in the next one that you do. But I'll talk to you soon.